Hi everybody, this is Andrew from Snakeworks. Today I'm making a video about the safe handling and behavior of our captive bred snakes. A lot of times at shows or in this snake room, I hand people the snake and they simply don't know what to do and they're afraid they're going to get bit. So we're going to go over a lot of different material here. It's going to give you an idea of how to read a snake's behavior, how to safely handle some snakes. And I should say this is going to be limited to captive bred non-venomous animals. So if you're looking for a venomous snake handling video, you are in the wrong place. This is all going to be about captive bred non-venomous pets, such as the boa constrictor, ball python, and short-tail pythons that I have in this room. So let's get started. We're going to go through a little bit of how you can read snakes' behavior before you even attempt to pick the snake up, because that's important. To understand snake behavior, we really need to look no further than what this setup is. This is a tub in a rack that has a snake. The snake's not visible to us at this point, so we could say it's hiding. It chooses to hide because it's simply a smaller creature than I am. I'm 5'10". This little guy in here is probably 3 feet long, and by the basic laws of nature, he's going to be scared of me. So I provide him with this hide, and now we see how he's kind of posturing a little bit. He's curious what's going on. He's not breathing heavily right now though, so I feel fairly confident I could reach in and pick this snake up without any issues. People always seem to think that these animals are going to bite them. Now that might be a natural, instinctive behavior for some snakes in the wild, but with a captive bred animal, I can observe its behavior. I'm seeing tongue flicks. This is a short-tail python, by the way. This animal's just calm right now. I could pick this animal up without it biting me. It's not in fear. It doesn't think it's going to be eaten. And of course, there's no food in the room, so it's not in any sort of a feeding mode where it might mistake my hand for food. Not all the snakes you have will be calm. Some of them will be very nervous, and it's important to understand what those signs are. Now, the first two snakes we looked at were quite calm. The one I'm going to show you right now has never really been calm. And I have to be very careful about reading the signs it's telling me, because I don't want to get bit by this large animal. Let's take a look. This animal is much more flighty and unpredictable than any other snake in this room. It may look fairly similar to what we've been seeing with the other snakes, but if I were to just reach out, its body language right now is telling me that it's on alert. It's not relaxed. Now there's a hiss, which is not uncommon from a short tail. And she seems to actually be behaving herself here. I still don't want to pick this animal up right now, because we're seeing some quick movements. She's a little bit nervous. If you were to see a snake like that, it's kind of telling you, leave me alone. Now, just because a pet snake is your pet doesn't mean that you have to pick it up all the time. Sometimes it's better off to just let them be. This is a different species of animal. This is a ball python. This animal is coming up looking for food, or maybe just wants to explore its environment. It's not showing any signs of aggression right now. I'd be fine picking this animal up. But as it's a smaller animal I'm comfortable with, I can put my hand on it. It's not doing much of anything. And these aren't really aggressive animals, so it's okay to pick this animal up. Now, normally I'd use two hands. I'm using one hand with this camera. And you can see this tongue flicking. So this is a good interaction right here. This animal's not scared of me. It's not scared of the camera. It's probably just looking for food, exploring, and it's gonna be fine. Again, this is a captive bred ball python you're dealing with here. It's not wild caught. A wild caught animal would have very different reaction to you coming up and picking it up. As you can see, it's quite comfortable with me just picking it up, putting it down. So here we have a boa constrictor. This animal is normally quite flighty and nervous, but for whatever reason today, she's relaxed. I think that may be because I'm letting her just sit here, but you can see the tongue flicking. There's nothing aggressive about this behavior. I can reach out and touch her. She's not scared of me. It's a nice domesticated animal here. Again, a wild caught boa constrictor would most likely not let you just touch it like this. And this is an animal, if I had two hands available, I would just pick it up and handle it. I know she is, you can see what she's doing. She's going to wrap very tightly around anything and make it kind of difficult for me to handle with one hand. And then she's going to just pretend that I'm a tree and climb up me. So all this behavior is completely fine. I'm not worried about getting bit at all by this animal. But what if there was some other signs going on here? What, like some sort of, believe it or not, even tail wagging in some of these snakes that aren't rattlesnakes is a sign of get away, leave me alone. There's also the hissing, which I take quite good care of these animals in a controlled environment, so there's really not a ton of hissing that goes on here. But maybe we can find somebody to demonstrate a behavior that says, leave me alone. As luck would have it, I'm not really having any luck finding angry animals in my snake room to demonstrate any sort of hissing or biting. You might encounter hissing or biting as soon as you bring an animal home from the pet store or the reptile expo or wherever you purchased it. It's important to respect an animal's space. It's scared at that point. You need to be able to leave it alone for a few days. And even in the future as a reptile keeper, if you do encounter your snake and it's hissing or striking, like, don't press it. You know, have some respect for the animal, give it its space, and chances are, you know, quite quickly it'll calm down and you can go ahead and pick it up. I mean, this is a large animal right here. It's completely calm with me handling it. And that comes from being in a snake room where the correct temperatures, the correct humidity. I have constant positive interactions with these animals. I don't pick them up quickly. I don't drop them. I don't do anything silly. And I'll show you later on in the video what I mean by that. But it really comes down to just having a well-fed, well-cared animal will be a lot easier to handle than something that's neglected. Undoubtedly, you have seen videos of people feeding live mice to snakes. And while I used to do that, I got sick of being bit. So it's important to get a pair of tongs. As you can see, this is for, you know, I feed adult ball pythons with these with no problem. If you have a smaller animal, you can certainly go smaller. But a good quality pair of tongs is going to go a long way to making sure that you don't get bit. I also use a snake hook. Now, you can do a couple different things with this. I'm going to show you right now. I like this. This is an impressive tool, and it's one that you should have as a snake keeper. Snake hook 101. Well, these windows right here allow me to see that snake in there. A lot of the tubs or enclosures you have, you may not be able to see your snake. Snakes think it's food time a lot of the time. So if you go and put your hand and try to open this like this, that snake can very quickly come over the top of this as soon as it opens and bite you. So, snake hook is also a drawer hook. You can simply just pull that drawer open. My hand is way back here, so that snake is going to have a very difficult time getting to my hand before I can move. The second thing that I do with snake hooks is I let the animal know that it's not feeding time, because he's coming out right now, or she is right now, like it's feeding time. This little hook on the head, just a little bit of, hey, it's not food time. Don't come at me. The snake is going to get the information that this is not food, even though this one seems a little bit thick-skulled. She's probably looking for food. But this is a way to just interact with the snake in a positive manner. And this is a terrible example because this animal is just still looking at me like I'm food. But most of the time, a snake hook is going to let you first touch the animal so it knows that it's not food time. Then you can reach in. Back to observing behavior. I'm not reaching into that snake's enclosure right now because this thing's ready to light me up. Let's try again over here. So I'm going to open the tub up. There's the snake. Instead of reaching my hand in, the hook goes in, makes a little bit of calm interaction. That's going to wake the animal up if it's asleep. It's going to let it know that this is not food coming in. And once that's done, I can reach in and touch the animal without any issue. I did not use a hook for a long time. That was just dumb. Once I got a hook, I really understood how powerful of a tool it is. And it's cheap. $10, $15, you pick up something like that, start hook training your animal. I don't pick up the animals with that hook though. That size hook right there would be okay for a smaller animal, but realistically, we're not dealing with venomous animals. You should be able to get your non-venomous captive bred pet snake to be comfortable with you picking it up with its hand once it gets to know you. But again, the hook is great for opening the drawers, a little bit of tap training so the animal knows it's not food. You can figure it out from there. It's not that difficult, but just don't be reaching in with your hand, because what goes into that enclosure is food and then your hand. That's the only things going in there, food or your hand. The snake's not going to know which one it is one time, and it's going to bite you thinking it's food. So get the hook, do it right. So I'd like to demonstrate how I would use this hook and tong to feed an animal. Obviously, I'm going to use the hook to open up the tub. I would then have a frozen thawed rodent at the end of the tong entering in. So my hands are never really going in here. I'm not opening it, putting my hand here, opening it up. My hand's not really going into the enclosure. It's all from outside because this is the snake's space. So hooks and tongs, essential pieces. So now that we're a little bit familiar with what to look for in snake behavior and using the tong and hook to help the snake understand it's not feeding time, or to just use the hook and tong to feed, we can kind of get to the basics of like handling an animal. Like, I'm gonna start with where to do that. Like, all my animals are in this snake room. You may have your snake in a living room or a bedroom or whatnot. I will say that the snake room has advantages because there's not much going on the floor here. Excuse the mess, we are transitioning to a little bit more modern look in here. So if a snake were to get out of this container, there's not a lot of places for it to hide. And I can also quickly move down these aisles if it catches me off guard. If you lose your snake in your bedroom, think about what your bedroom looks like. There's gonna be a million places for that animal to hide. You know, if you have the snake out in the kitchen or you keep it in your living room, it can get very stressful trying to find a snake, especially if there's a ton of clutter. So do yourself a favor, handle your snake in an area where it's conducive to you being able to keep control of the animal and easily gain control if you lose it. Now we can get a little bit into how to handle an animal. This is the meat and bones of the video. We're going to start with a ball python. Ball pythons are pretty easy to handle. This is a male. He's a little bit on the small side because I keep my males smaller only because I breed and I feel like these guys don't need to take up as much space as a breeder female. As you can see, it's quite easy to handle this animal. He's not going anywhere. He's not even trying to go anywhere. He's got a loose grip on my hand and I'm just supporting his body. Now, ball pythons, one this light, I can do that with no detriment to the animal. I choose not to. I don't want to just hang my snakes around. But anything like this is completely fine. He's clearly calm. I mean, I used to put the animals around my neck when I was more inexperienced keeper. You'll learn that poo comes out of this at some point and you don't want it hanging around your neck, but you know, live dangerously if you choose. I choose not to. So this animal is completely calm in a situation like this. Obviously, I'm not making any quick movements. I don't want to swing and hit the animal off of anything. I'm not smoking cigarettes. I'm not going to blow smoke in this animal's face. I'm not going to accidentally burn it moving a cigarette around. I'm paying attention to the animal because the animal is the #1 priority right here. So ball pythons, pretty easy to handle. I mean, obviously like the smaller ones, they get a little bit squirrely. And I can show you one right now, like how to handle a hatchling versus a calm adult. So this little buddy is a hatchling from this year. He's 3 or 4 months old. He's pretty calm, but given the size of this animal, I'm not going to just put him down anywhere and walk away even for a split second because he might shoot off somewhere. I'm going to keep a little bit more of a guarded approach to this animal. I don't want him going anywhere. He's so small, he could sneak underneath the door and disappear. So hatchlings, a little bit more observation and diligence to make sure that they're not going anywhere. But again, you're just supporting the body here. There's nothing crazy going on. So let me show you an animal that needs a little bit different handling, and that would be the short tails. Okay, so what we have here is a short tail python. They're terrestrial. They spend all the time on the ground. So what I tend to do with this animal is to almost hold it like a baby sometimes, if it lets me. Sometimes they don't want anything to do with you. That goes back to observing behavior. This animal's totally calm right now. This is not an animal that I would hold out with just one hand. It would make it very nervous. It wants to feel supported, like it's on the ground at all times. And handling a short tail like this is what you call a positive interaction. It's going to lead to a better behaved animal because it knows when it gets picked up, I'm not going to be flailing it around. It can feel secure and it'll be comfortable with me picking it up again. But again, you want to be supporting this animal as much as you can. You don't have to hold it tight to your chest, but just provide some sort of faux ground, if you will. It's almost like it's on the ground right now. It's not, but I'm supporting this body. I don't want to just hold it in the middle and let it hang over either, like some sort of half a McDonald's type of logo, if you will. It's a terrible, terrible example right there, but you get the idea. Don't hold it right in the middle and just let it hang. Support the short tail. Now, this is drastically different from the boa constrictor I'm about to show you. Okay. Hey there. So this is a large adult boa constrictor. Now, I said earlier I normally don't hang them around my neck, but I feel like this animal needs a lot of support. So I'm going to use my neck in this situation so that the animal doesn't get hurt. You gotta remember, snakes are long spinal columns. They're full of ribs and vertebrae, and you don't want them to get hurt. Now, a snake this size, also, you don't want yourself to get hurt. I'm not gonna let this animal wrap all the way around my neck. I'm gonna clearly keep this area in here clear. He's gonna try to go wherever he wants to go. So keep in mind with an animal this size, if you're going to handle it, I wouldn't suggest bringing it outside in public because people are going to freak out. And it also needs a lot of room and it needs a lot of support. Now this is an animal, or I would be okay putting it down on the ground. So I feel like this thing's not going to disappear as soon as you turn around. I'll let him climb around on like my stairs or whatnot, get some exercise. But it's a strong, powerful animal. You need to respect an animal this size. And this is a little bit different than a baby boa constrictor. Now, a baby boa constrictor would be wrapping around my hands very tightly, almost like I'm some sort of a tree limb. This animal is a lot more comfortable with just basically ignoring me. I mean, I really don't even know if he knows I'm here. He doesn't really need me. He's just going to go wherever he wants. So keep that in mind. If you have an adult boa constrictor of large size, you're going to need to support it. You don't want it getting hurt. And if you have a smaller boa constrictor, it's just going to cling to you. And I'll show you one right now, actually. I have a couple smaller boa constrictors that are very different to handle than this giant guy. So this right here is a boa constrictor that's about a year old. See, a lot smaller. It's gripping my hands very tightly right now. It's really holding on to me. I don't actually need to do anything. I wouldn't just swing the animal around the room, but I'm not concerned with giving this animal a lot of support. an animal this size is really almost taking care of itself. As long as I'm just giving it what it needs. I'm just a steady, stern person right now who's providing an arm that's not really moving so it can be comfortable. And it's just going to explore, and you can enjoy just looking at this animal. Again, it's not another animal that I would be putting down on the ground. This would disappear pretty quick. So you're going to want to keep that in your hands. Remember to observe its behavior. This animal's just flicking its tongue, it's moving around, it's not thinking about food, and it's not scared, it's completely calm right now. So there you go, you can see the difference between a large boa constrictor and a small boa constrictor in terms of handling. And I should say this is in no means meant to be completely comprehensive. This is just a basic overview of how I would suggest handling these 3 different types of species. So there you have some examples of how you can safely handle boa constrictors, short tails, and ball pythons. Now, nothing went wrong in the room today in our video, but it's always possible that you get bit or your snake escapes. So please be aware of that when purchasing an animal. Purchase along with it a professionally made escape-proof enclosure and follow some of the best practices listed in this video, and you should be fine. If you do get bit, don't worry, it's not a venomous animal. Make sure to clean the wound and maybe do a little bit introspection of why you got bit. Quite honestly, these animals don't have huge brains. We're smarter than they are. You just need to take a step back, redesign the program that you put in place, and avoid that negative outcome in the future. Should also mention that USARK is an organization on my t-shirt that does a lot to help with conservation and our privilege of reptile keeping in this country. Pet ownership is always under attack, so please do your part, donate to USARK, look into what they do, and maybe volunteer. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I hope that I helped you with a little bit of snake handling tricks.